They are. Either one. Either one. Information and comment cards are still being received and will be part of the record that goes in to the DOT and FHWA. We want to get all of those comment cards in as well. That's it for the formal presentation. We're more than welcome to take on questions. And
okay. I got a comment and a question.
Yes.
Comments related to the parking on the street that y'all proposed. I don't see anybody using that, being able to use that except for earlier employees. I know they're already at a parking crunch already, and I just don't see there being spots available for the neighborhood. I see that more as Erlanger being taken over that. As far as the question, the underpass, we're going to have 22 feet of road with another 12 feet of sidewalk on each side for the underpass, or is this going to squeeze down for the?
It will be 12 foot on the one side and 5 foot on the other side. So there will still continue to be the full pedestrian features through the underpass. Yes.
The gentleman who came earlier and said that one of the concerns of your project is social justice issues. Is that true? Social justice issues was said to be one of the concerns. So I'm curious how you would respond to the clear and just unending opposition that you've received from the African American community who's living here, right? This is a historic African American community, and the opposition from the people who live here. Maybe they don't own the buildings, right? So maybe they're not the owners. Okay, how do you even respond to the Muskogee people, the Creek Nation, that you're going to blast this extension through the Civic Mound?
Well, you know, it seems like two different issues that you're talking about. One
Well,
is
it's
one
destruction
is
of culture.
one is the community impact. Yes, destruction of culture. And so, you know, this is a project that the city has identified to move forward. And with that, you know, what do we try to do? We try to definitely minimize. And we're not trying to blast through anything and trying to hurt anybody more and trying to minimize what is proposed to happen for the roadway. And so, you know, when I first came on the project, you know, we were looking at, you know, a much larger roadway with a median in it and other things. And so, from my involvement in listening to the community and my advice to this consulting crew is like, listen, you know, there's many things that we can do for this community if this has to happen. Okay, the park is definitely a good idea. That something was, you know, it was a request from the community that if this has to happen, you know, I've always wanted to have the park back as a public resource. And so, you know, that is a good benefit from this project. I mean, whenever you do a project like this, there's possible benefit trade-offs that you have, okay? And so, you know, if we could just go away and the needs of the transportation system could be met in some other fashion, then we could do that, okay? Nobody wants to have a project that hurts people and degrades neighborhoods. It's not our desire to do that.
It seems like it, though, because you've got clear opposition, and you're saying that you care about social justice. It's just like,
It kind of seems like the needs of the community are not being met.
that's right, yeah.
Like, it's like you're saying all the needs that the city needs, but you haven't laid out a platform of the things that the things that the community needs. You got these pictures, but the things that the community have expressed, where are those pictures?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, why don't you start and, you know, identify some of those needs for
We've
us?
been in all the meetings and did the charrette, and we posted all those. But like I told Scott, none of that is showing here.
Again, we're doing the roadway portion of this. There is a park portion that will have direct opportunity to have input on how that's going to
We've
shape
heard about
up.
the gateway and how important that is, you know, right? That was one of the things that we identified.
And let me say, me personally, I think this is the beginning to a road that's gonna expand over time to hit North Georgia as far as transportation. So I mean, this is just the gateway to the beginning. So if this starts, you know, it's all out of our hands as far as how much will come after this administration.
Maybe I can provide a little bit of perspective about how the transportation planning process works. This project preceded me in this position in the long-range planning process. which happens across the transportation planning organization, which includes Hamilton County, multiple counties around Hamilton County, the city of Chattanooga, and other municipalities. So projects are typically identified in the long-range plan, and then they eventually find themselves on a list, which allows them to be funded with federal dollars, such is the case with this. So I think in some respects there is a planning process that includes the broad community of this county, neighboring counties and cities that identify this project as important. It is also important from a connectivity standpoint, as I said.
Right. Who is it important to?
Now, let me say one thing as it relates to the issue of the long range. We're, like I said at the beginning, and I know I think it was you, Tiffany, that said this, is that who's to assure that after I'm gone, this wouldn't be changed. But my intention is not to create a giant truck route from the highway to Amicola. To that degree, I'm prepared to take the long-range plan, which was already changed from a presumed widening to just a study, entirely off that long-range plan. So there is no longer any indication of a long-range plan to go southward to the highway. I'll make sure that happens.
Okay,
now, again, I can't make sure somebody didn't come around and put it back on there.
Exactly.
But the point of me saying all that is that it is a long process to get a project identified as something that's beneficial to a community at large, have it vetted in that process, have it identified, have it funded like we're doing now, have it developed in the environmental phase. So
it's a long process.
I'm with you on that. Our intention is not to create a 4-lane highway. Our intention is to create a calm, safe, comfortable, friendly for neighborhoods street that connects us to Riverfront Park. That's our intention.
You know, I like you, Blind. But that's.
I like that too.
But this is only the beginning. Like I say, the administrations that come after you, just like the administrations had pre-planned this before you. You know what I mean? I know it takes a long time. I've been dealing with this for about 5 years. Like I say, this is the gateway to the beginning of as far as exterminating the community. Doing away with it.
Well, and like Scott is saying, that input that I just heard, we've heard before, and I think we're recording this, so that you've said it again. You want to assure, and I will do everything I can to assure it for you, that this does not become a truck route south.
I don't think you can do the assuring that.
I'm just saying I'll do what I can. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
that's
I
what I'm saying.
can't affect what happens in the year 2050, but I can affect what happens in the year 2017 for
Yeah, that's
sure.
what I'm saying.
Let's
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
So you have Third that veers off left on the Riverside Drive. You have the street that runs alongside CSAs. That's easily 4 lanes. Would it not cost less? Would it not cause less havoc to widen that? Put a traffic light there, like you have the short traffic light off of Amicola, Riverside Drive, Riverfront Parkway on Georgia Avenue. There to reroute the traffic, ambulances, not through the neighborhood, but there, would it not cost less? I mean, we looking at the same objective. Why would we not go 3 blocks up and do it versus going straight through a historic park?
Well,
I mean, that would easily give you 5 lanes.
one thing to consider about that is that adding lanes is not as valuable as adding connection.
That is a connection, it's just 3 blocks up.
But the concept of this project is to increase the connection. You all have been on the highway or on Amicola during a snowstorm or somewhere where you had no other option.
But there's a
and there was
traffic
some
light
sort of
there.
an incident. So the ability to create alternatives and options to get around is extremely valuable to the transportation system. You can't get that out of a widening. You can't get more connectivities out of a widening.
But you connect, and you can widen Riverside further to the right, going down Amicola Riverside Drive, and not take a whole lot of property. I'm not understanding why we want to go through a historic park versus going 2 blocks up the road. Because Third veers off on the Riverside Drive. You've got from right there where it veers off to that street, which I don't know what it is. I guess, you know, I've not been here because you guys have made your decision. But it runs alongside CSAS. That's easily, you could make that
That's
5
Siskiyou.
right.
I think that's Siskiyou.
Okay, and it runs on a private street, but it's a city street there. Why would you not run that 2 blocks up on the Amicola? Because that's where it leads to. There's nothing but brush there. It interrupts nothing. It doesn't interrupt Tennessee American Water. It doesn't interrupt any neighborhood, anybody. It doesn't affect anybody.
We suggested that, but they keep coming back to this plan.
But it's the same distance,
Yeah.
same situation there as opposed to, and there's already a traffic light there, but yet we go and we take on Riverfront Parkway, Riverside Drive, and put this short traffic light. Now, if you turn it off a third, you can get 2 cars there without backing up traffic, but we're talking about decreasing in case of an emergency. You can't get turning off a third with 2 cars there to go back down Riverside Drive, Riverfront Parkway, whatever you want to say that is there. And you've got 2 traffic lights within 3 cars distance right there. Why can we not decrease one traffic light and make another one there off of Third, because there's already one there, off of Third that will run straight down into Riverside Drive, that would not make you have to do all of this. I mean, the whole park is beautiful and the sidewalks, but I mean, we've been asking for sidewalks. I mean, I moved over here in 2008. We've been asking for sidewalks on Scruggs since then. The city come out, dug up the front of my property, and never come back out and done a thing. So, I mean, I'm trying to understand and grasp, other than the fact that this has been in motion 10 years before. I mean, it's been in the plan long before now. I'm just trying to understand why this has got to be the end result and the only way it is versus what the other options are, and nobody's paying attention and really listening. Because there are ways around it. Not only do you have, I guess it's what you say, Siskin Drive. Siskin Drive runs all the way and it connects to Weagle. And we're not tearing up anything if we just run it out. And it's not tearing up anybody's property because it runs alongside if you do it. Tennessee American Water is just on the opposite side of Lincoln Park and you ain't destroying anything. So I'm just trying to understand that portion of it.
We suggested all that,
And nobody's explained it.
and it still come back to this.
And it costs less. It's a matter of dozing down brush, taking ownership like, you know, you're doing now.
I know in that area, there's been discussion about the patient population to the rehab hospital and the fact that they park on the other side. If it's the same area I'm thinking about, where they park on the other side.
There's a
of the
lot
street.
there. There's a parking lot there.
And so there's concern about the patient, rehab patients
This
walking
parking
across.
lot belongs to the school. It's not patient parking. Siskin has its own private parking.
The additional issue there is that the school, I believe, is on the National Register of Historic Places, and we have issues with trying to get on that property.
But Lincoln
Well-
Park was there before the school parking lot was there, so I'm trying to get you to make me understand. You know, we keep getting we keep getting a runaround, and that's all it is. You can't sugarcoat it. You can't paint a pretty picture of we're getting the runaround. The Lincoln Park was there long before that lot was ever put there. So help me understand why you can say it's easy to walk in and take Lincoln Park versus that parking lot that didn't come till 20 years after, if not longer, Lincoln Park was ever declared a historic park.
But it's not had been cleared.
Okay, well, even now, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a parking lot. You're gonna take a historic park and give us this tombstone, basically.
Is a park registered as a historical park?
It should be.
Is it registered as a historical
No,
park?
it's not, and I like to read something.
I got property out here, and the reason, the question I'm asking, at this point, you got property, and you rent to people, they don't pay, then they call you, the city people, to come out here and they demand property owners to correct some craziness that they tear up property. Then I gotta go to court to justify something that they don't pay rent, they don't pay nothing, then they say, well, can the city come out and tell me, subpoena me to go to court? I got something that's,
That's another
hey,
meeting.
it's not enough.
That's another meeting.
First of all, this is an ad hoc committee.
A what?
Ad hoc committee.
What is that?
Is that if, whatever you're talking about come through this park, I don't have a problem with it.
I do.
But the people in this community seem to value this park, but I don't know to what extent they value this park, for what reason. Now, I don't know. Now, if you can, I can justify progress, I can justify community involvement, but I never see nobody using this park.
But you ain't, no,
Well, you
no,
haven't
no,
been around it.
I tell you what, you know what? I may not have been around, but I'm sick and tired of the city, when I rent property, come out here and demanding that what I should do. And then people telling me that what you should do, and you bring these people say they're Indians.
Excuse me?
Oh, wait, hold on.
No, where I'm going, if you go from the park to the Indian mound, that something's coming through. If progress has got to take place, let it come through. I tell you what, if you got an investment in this community, fine. If you don't, then you don't have nothing to say. I do have something to say.
Well, you said.
Hey, I tell you what.
You said.
No, I'm going to continue to say what I need to say. Now, I don't know, clean up this community. They can't clean the community up. Now, what's so important about the park anyway, out here? Nobody uses the park. You don't have a 501c3, and then Andy Burke tricked you and said that he was going to say he's going to give you the park, and he ain't going to give you nothing.
Yeah, he did do that.
He tricked you. I mean, you can go down there and look at this Jew. He ain't going to give you nothing.
I have a statement.
Hey.
I
tell you what, people should have statements if they got something invested in this community.
I have a statement to read, and it is from Dr. Carol Van West. Basically, he's the historian up at MTSU. He came down here and looked at the park a couple of times. People are so crazy about titles. I'm trying to get his title together. What is his title, Michael?
You don't live here, does he?
No, he's a director, professor of history.
You could have went to UTC and got that.
Can I speak, Mr. Hill?
I'm pissed off. Okay. I got the city breathing down my neck, but some rundown woman won't pay taxes, won't even pay rent. What the hell are you talking about, park? I'm not going to be disrupted.
Well, you are.
Well, go ahead and read some guy who lives in Murfreesburg.
Let's go.
MTSU Center for Historic Preservation, Tennessee State Historic.
You don't speak for me.
I regret that I cannot attend the August 11th meeting at Gethsemane Baptist Church, where prior out-of-state commitments keep me from attending and offering these comments in person. I do hope that these comments become part of the public record of the meeting. 15 months ago, property owners in the Lincoln Park neighborhood spoke to me about their neighborhood, the development challenges that they face, and the possibilities of preserving the historic neighborhood and its significant history. I agreed to begin a long-term exploration of all the post-Reconstruction African-American neighborhoods in Chattanooga as part of a multiple property nomination cover sheet for the National Register of Historic Places. State officials at the Tennessee Historical Commission and property owners in Lincoln Park both shared with me an earlier determination of eligibility for Lincoln Park, concluded that the neighborhood was not eligible for the National Register of Historical Places, and thus not historically significant under the definitions of the National Historic Preservation Act. Our research to date finds a preliminary determination based on incomplete research, and thus the assessment may be incorrect. We have been to Lincoln Park 3 times. We understand the historic grandstand is gone, elements of park buildings and landscaping are gone, and the New Deal era swimming pool has been altered into a warehouse. However, we also know that Lincoln Park as a place is very much alive. The fields where the famous athletes played is very much intact. Some historic landscaping elements survive, and the historic swimming pool building remains and could be restored to a new recreation use. A wide range of scholarships over the last generation has emphasized the significance of placemaking in African American history and culture. Lincoln Park is such a place, and the open land conveys that history and significance today, where Chattanooga blacks given a sliver of opportunity in the harsh Jim Crow times of the early 20s. Century built a place of recreation, sport, and identity. Recall that the park's dedication came just a decade after the lynching of Ed Johnson on the Walnut Street Bridge. There were tough years in Chattanooga, to say the least, and the promise of Lincoln Park said volumes of how Chattanooga's were trying to move forward as World War I still raged across Europe. The African American neighborhood that lies adjacent to the park today also shows the significance of African American placemaking in Jim Crow, Tennessee. Here you have a mixture of working class and middle class dwellings, small churches, and stores, all typical of what African Americans could build within the strictures of segregation. They had this neighborhood because it was not a great location, crammed between the all-white hospital complex and white middle-class neighborhood on one side and the railroad tracks and machine shops on the other side. Yet they built a neighborhood that exists today, and many of the adorned homes are not architecturally distinctive. True, but they are what people living with inequality could build and nurture in those years. Our research today has indicated that the neighborhood has historical significance as a representative collection of dwellings and other community buildings. From 1880 to 1960, we are finding similar patterns in the nearby Archenard neighborhood, which developed around what became the National Battlefield Reservation almost as soon as the fighting ended. In late 1863, here emerged strong middle-class neighborhood compared to the more working-class Lincoln Park neighborhood, one which nurtured the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, as it provided safe haven and overnight accommodation for civil rights activists and leaders in those years. Lincoln Park is historic and significant. Archenard is historic and significant. As our research progresses, we will undoubtedly learn more and gain deeper understanding to the significance of these places, not only to Chattanooga history, but the history of Tennessee. And they do have attachments, and I would like to enter this into this meeting today. So Lincoln Park is historic. The historian, we don't even have a preservation officer in the city of Chattanooga, which is, I think, is unlawful. So, I mean, how can you move on and you don't have anyone as a gatekeeper as far as preservation?
Jeff, you want to talk about historic?
With this is, we did an analysis based on the criteria that's given to us by the State Historic Preservation Office. And that was, we've been over the findings, we shared our report with you about, all the stuff that we had done on our side. And if this guy can convince the State Historic Preservation Office otherwise, more power to him. I'm not saying that this, that there's not a local historic significance here in action. I've understood that from day one on this project, okay? But we've done our research based on the criteria that we're given by the state and the federal government, by the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, and are trying to comply with Section 106 of the Historic Preservation Act, okay? And to the best of our ability. And people can always come back and argue against the analyst's ability to have done a good or a great job. And if that guy, like I said, can convince the State Historic Preservation Office and the Ad Council that there's merit here to have this community as a historic district, more power to them, and I wish you the best of luck in doing that. And I think that would be great for the community if we could do that.
If we were able to get the park on the historic registry before construction began, would that change the plans, or would the plans already set up in motion?
It would have to. If you did that, then we have to comply with Section 4F, which is very complex, and there's a lot of technical details to it, but essentially it says that, you have to look at all of the proven and feasible alternatives.
I'm gonna ask you a
to
question.
your action.
So if we don't, one more, sorry. So if we don't get this park historically registered before this road comes in, it's probably never gonna happen, realistically.
Really, yeah, I mean, they've already looked at TDOT, we've gone through this process, we presented the criteria, they've done their evaluation, they've made their determination. It's not like, we're trying to not promote it as historic. We have, I've had two, we had one architectural historian come in and do her analysis. I had another guy that.
You just told me yourself you thought the neighborhood was historical, but just because you think it doesn't translate over to everyone else's paperwork.
Exactly. I mean, just because my feeling, your feeling, with regard to the historic nature of something, doesn't necessarily qualify it as eligible
All the
for listing on the
neighborhood feels
historic
it's
register.
historic,
Well, that's great. You know what? My neighborhood, I think it's historic too, but it doesn't qualify for the National Register based on the criteria of evaluation. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's the way it comes down. And like I said, if this guy has a better relationship somehow and can work with the SHPO to change that evaluation, yeah.
Personally, I think the city has duped these people out here. If the city gives this community this property, historically, it is a historical piece of property. Andy Burke has not come forward and given this community the property, the 5 acres he said he was going to give them. Obviously, it would be historical. I mean, Fort was not historically. I grew up, not in this area, but I grew up and it became a historical area. No, wait just a minute. Let me finish. I'm not playing semantics with you.
I understand. Yeah.
The city promised this community 5 acres of some land out here. Let me finish. Now, if they would have granted them those 5 acres, they could have applied for historical preservation of this park because it was the only black park in the history of the South, and they could prove it that people come from Atlanta, Nashville, and Knoxville, and all other areas within a 100-mile radius because of the significance of this park. Now, you can take your semantics, but the facts are the facts. And the only thing that is not granting them historical preservation is that the mayor has not deeded this park to them because of the historical value of the park. Now, that's the only hang-up these people have. No, that's the only freeway y'all have, just running over this community because they haven't been granted the park. They can document the historical nature of the park. And see, I don't care what you say about whatever you say. The city, if they granted them that, they could request it, and they don't have to go through this lengthy process. And the city, if they had a fair mayor, would have went to Washington and Congress and the senators would have granted them a plaque saying that this is a historical park. I'm an educated man, I can speak for myself, okay?
No argument.
Okay?
No argument there, sir, absolutely, okay? But what I can tell you about the analysis that we did is independent of who owns the property. The historic analysis that we did.
No, see, you dealing with, you're playing words, you're playing games. I don't have a problem with it because you play the bureaucrat.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
No, wait just a minute.
I'm just trying to tell you how to do the analysis.
I keep sharing information with you, and you don't show on listen. When people moved up that Fort Ward, they rechanged the whole social dynamics of Fort Ward and made it a historical area. If the mayor would get off his loving behind and granted these people this park and given them the deed to this park, it would have been a historical park because of the nature of the park. History tells us that. Now, I don't care how much you want to play with word games. It's simple. It's totally simple. If the mayor and the council, if the mayor said, you people got the 5 acres, and then all we got to do is say, we can document the historical nature of this park, they would have got it. And then, that's it, that's simple.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for all for that. And I can't make you believe me, because it sounds like you won't, but the city's intention, and these gentlemen don't work for the city, but I do.
I know, you're a political appointee, you know what? And then next year, they have a new person, then I'm supposed to believe you after you're out of office.
Like I said,
Why in the hell y'all?
I can't make you believe me. All I can
What you mean,
say-
believe you?
I can-
Are you Jesus? Are you?
Can I just finish my statement, please?
Hell, you can finish anything you want to, but the facts will still remain the facts. You want to come here with some bureaucratic baloney. You tell Andy Burke to grant this community the 5 acres they gave them, and then they can document the historical nature of the park. Now, I tell you what,
That's
I tell you
what I'm
what.
trying to tell you, is I don't need to tell him that, because that's still his intention. That is still
You
his
know what,
intention.
I tell you what, he ain't here today.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I guess you.
I just want to make it clear for the group in the room that our intention is still to make the park, the 5 acres, a public park. And that's-
No, historical park. Not a park, a historical park.
Yes, sir.
At the end of the day, the people in the room feel like they've been hoodwinked, like they have been taken advantage of. At what point in time are you all going to give them a layout of their demands and what they need?
Are you talking about as it relates to the park?
As it relates to the park and the whole area, and whatever kind of buffers they need, and what kind of, because right now it's just like, it's gonna happen, and you all are here to make it easier to try to ease them through it before it happens. But it seems like I haven't seen anything to determine the demands that they want, or things that they would like, or any kind of sketches or layouts. And like you said, I think we're doing the roadways, we're not dealing with the park. But just as a common courtesy, you should have came and said, hey, and this is some of the things that you want, because you had time to put these sketches together. You could have put those sketches together. So at what time would those sketches be available to the people?
I think I'd like to address that. Certainly, we came here 2012, and we had a different layout. We had a different typical section, and we have listened, whether you want to, agree with me or not. But this has absolutely come through the RPA Brownfield Visioning Study, the comments that were made during that period, and the other comments that we've received. We've received 100 comments on this project, and we've specifically changed it.
Scott, I think you may be talking, you may be talking as much about the park layouts as you are the street, if I'm hearing correctly. So, yeah, I think that's a good point. But in the park, and as I believe that they need to both go together, but because our funding source is federal, we are obligated to look at the street project and just the street project. So it would be inappropriate for us, as it relates to this project, to show up with park design.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Hold on a second.
Wait a minute.
Excuse me, sir. Please let me finish.
I tell you what, those 5, there's 6 houses down there. Can you tell me the historical value of 8 houses on the left-hand side down there?
Sir.
No, you know why you can't tell me? Because those houses was built by the railroad for white supervisors. You come along as you talk about the historical value of something. Then you need to talk about the railroad value to this community and how people live. Whites live on those 8 rows of houses down there. I was curious to find out. And all of them built the same with hardwood floors. And it was built for white supervisors. I tell you what, you speak whatever you want to be. You know why? Because you and the mayor probably lifespan is short. Go ahead and speak. I'm through with it.
Oh, I don't know, I may have addressed the question, but I'll identify again, Coach Will Cook in the back. She is here for that reason, because we felt like questions about the park would emerge from this meeting, and is committed to starting the process. I think to address the question that you're asking.
For the community to see?
The process of design development of the park hasn't started yet, but it's going to in the next
couple of months.
Next couple of months.
I hate to say this, guys. We have submitted a prospective proposal of what the community wants to the RPU, okay? They have a copy of what we want, it's there. All it's doing is bringing what existed in Lincoln Park years ago into a modern perspective. It's there, it's part of the study they have done, it's part of it. It's not included here, whereas that the impact that the highway has, you should see what we are protecting person say, this is the impact it's going to have for what you are requesting. And that's where it's kind of backwards. And that's what needs to happen to me. You need to see what they really want, which is already in writing, and say, okay, now, let's look at this and see how it's going to impact you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Now, he said that part of this was for the ambulance service to get to the hospital, emergency services to get to the hospital, and part of it's to increase growth. So how do you do both of them? How do you get faster service in emergency and increase growth, which is growth in traffic, and how do you do that simultaneously?
That's a good question. I tell you what, that's almost a planning question that I'm not sure every individual would answer the same. I'll answer it the way I believe. I think that a city that works in a sustainable way is a city that has options. And like I said earlier, that's people to be able to move around on foot, by bike, in a bus, by car. And I think the best way to do that is to create a city grid that's well connected. I think that's what's proven to work through time and across generations. That is the best way to accommodate growth in a way that relieves traffic. Now, obviously, traffic is a function of people. So as there become more people, there becomes more traffic. But if you can provide options for people to get around in different ways, which is what you have when you have a well-connected grid, that is the best way to accommodate growth and maintain the relief of traffic. Now, would every planning person say that? I don't know, but that's what I think this project is about.
And it just, the fact that you're gonna have semis, because it's a federal project, that you have to accommodate semis, it just doesn't seem, and then accommodate growth, like you're gonna build this neighborhood up, it's gonna be congested.
True, it's already that way.
So I don't see how you're gonna do both of those, really.
Well,
If you are saying that you want to address getting emergency vehicles to the hospital quicker, if you took that language out, I could go with it. But saying that just makes me like.
well, it's quicker because, and like we said, the street, as we're conceiving it now, is designed to be a slow street, 25 or 30 mile an hour design speed street. So traffic, and that means that we designed it for traffic to work at that speed, which is one of the things that the 2 lanes does. The reason that it cuts response time is not so much because of speed, but because it creates a shorter distance. You don't have to, if you're coming from the east on Andrew, you have to come all the way around and come back. You could come right in. Yes, Michael?
I have 2 questions. The first one would be, about a year and a half ago, the Neighborhood Association filed an open records request with the city asking for the layout of the alternate route proposals, and what they were able to acquire or get back really had to relate to the size or number of lanes on the Central Avenue. But they got back nothing that relates to actual alternatives away from the Central Avenue extension itself, such as on Will Street and 3rd Street. There was no actual documentation. Do like preliminary studies of alternate routes that do not include Central Avenue, do they exist in the earlier record? And can they be acquired by an open records request?
That's a legal question. I'm not sure.
They don't exist.
I'm not sure that I'm comfortable answering that question, although I'll share it with you. I'll be happy to ask the city attorney and find out I'm not an attorney, so let me find out what the attorney answer to that question is like.
Okay. My next question would be related to, the gentleman mentioned gentrification as an environmental impact for the neighborhood. I just wanted to see what the criterion was used for judging the impact of gentrification or increased property values and the like. What criteria was used on this project to see what the effect would be?
Well, it might be easier if we just give you the report. The report will be available and you can read the whole thing. I think that would probably be the best way, for you to get that information. Anybody can see that. So, there is a set of things that we looked at, with regard to surrounding land use, traffic flow, some of the origin, destination, where people are going, how are they moving, land values, community history, zoning, what are the current zoning regulations and growth management strategies that are in place. And the purple book as well is something.
What does that share with the community? What does it make you share with the community?
No, but it's available.
Okay, y'all have anything to share with us? Don't share it beforehand when we go to all these meetings, and then, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
We just,
Yeah, but we just completed the studies, and we're here to tell you the information is becoming available as documents are in review at DDOT.
I'm gonna say this nice. It would be nice to postpone this meeting until we had a chance to review those documents so that we can come up with some type of presentation.
was the growth being considered as far as Erlanger's expansion across 3rd Street and then the proposed 400-meter apartment complex that's going to be built off this Central Avenue extension?
I'm not, ask that question again.
He's saying was the gentrification analysis.
Well, more of the growth studies and the traffic study, were they, did they involve what's going to be in the next 5 years, the future possible hotel and grocery store across from Erlanger, as well as at one point there was talking 300 or 400 meter apartment complex where the former Cumberland Corporation building was.
So the address,
Yeah,
I think the
can.
question maybe is traffic studies. and
Traffic generation was
Yeah.
done over time to try and identify what will happen. Is it going to be a little different? Yeah, it's going to be a little different. Yeah, are new things coming online that maybe we didn't know for sure? So we can go back and look and see if that moves the needle at all, and that would be appropriate at this point. It's a good question.
I think this gets to the issue of trip generation and assumptions, because in the past year or so, in fact, in the past couple of months, there was a rezone to C3 that would allow an 8-story apartment complex on 3rd across from Erlanger. And there's been some other rezoning as you head towards Macaulay Avenue for a UTC complex. And then there's the, what may be happening on Riverside Drive and all. And I think you really do need, these are not just incremental things, these are major trip generators. A question about this particular alignment that we're talking about, am I understanding that because federal funds are being used, that it must accommodate truck traffic?
You know why?
Is that a
given?
I mean,
I
think it does, but I'm not.
We have truck traffic every day. I live on Cleveland Avenue, and all types of big trucks up and down that road every day, all day long. So we have big
Scott's a professional engineer, so I want to say something, and I want him to shout at me or throw something if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're obligated to provide for a fast, convenient route for trucks. I think we can design the streets the way we've said we've designed it. We can put all kinds of features in it that discourage truck use, but we don't typically design streets to exclude any one mode or another. We would think that being able to provide for a truck in a safe way would be responsible, but not a 45-mile-an-hour detour for geared towards trucks. That's not at all our intention. Did I say anything wrong in terms of?
You're right on.
This is an everyday thing. Large trucks. Some of them get stuck down in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? I live right on the street where all the trucks come every day. Traffic every day. And a lot of trucks, they come down and they get stuck between Scrubs and Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? So we have the traffic with trucks every day. All types of trucks.
What else? Yes, sir.
Sure. So you have studies. I mean, I would expect, as a city people trying to work with their communities, all these different studies would be very much available to the public so they could all see, just to support the earlier question asked. But along with that, so what are the primary? Was there a certain amount of traffic, or was there a traffic study done showing you had inadequate traffic capacity and flows, that you needed more, you needed another route here? Is there like real evidence for that, or have you done a study previously which is involved with why you need additional route through there?
Right, so there was a traffic planning study done, I think it was 2007, that looked back at traffic volumes at that point, looked at levels of service with and without the route, and one of the outcomes of that report was specifically looked at what the response time was for emergency vehicles headed to Erlanger, and that was a piece of the puzzle that led the decision to fund this project. So that's out there, it's on the record.
Okay.
It
So
has been
primary,
completed.
okay.
It's
So
typ-
primarily what you're
typically
saying.
there's- Typically, there's modeling as well that happens at the planning level that I alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
So there's travel modeling that happens for the community at large as well.
Okay. So primarily what you're saying is an emergency need there, right? Which
There's
is
multiple needs.
okay, but what are the primary ones then? That sounds like what you were just saying. No.
It's connectivity for pedestrians, bikes, Lincoln Park, Fort Wood, Erlanger, the entire local community. It's a neighborhood road for the local community, and Erlanger and response times to emergency vehicles is a piece of the puzzle.
Okay. Well, so following up on, there was a young lady here earlier who presented another option there at the front, which I never really heard her proposal addressed just yet in this meeting. But that's going to probably take care of the emergency potentially, or at least it's an option there, which I haven't seen or heard addressed. And then with regard to just interconnectivity, I know like that's an abstract principle, which sounds really nice. But probably you would want to weigh that against some of these other community issues, which it sounds like people are presenting here, and with regard to how you respect people's communities in the city. And at the very least, you all, the city knows that this park is, if it's not quote unquote a historical site just as of yet, from what we're hearing, it certainly is something we're all aware of in this city, has been a significant place for this community and people from all around. So, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I got to speak to the alternatives process. I know we did look at a number of the alternatives, and I would specifically like to see exactly where she's talking about for the alternative, because we were presented an alternative that would come up Siskin and then kind of do a quick 90 back around the Siskin facility, then up Hampton, I believe it is, and tie it back through that route. And we did look at that, and there were some considerable concerns with it, from impacting the CSAS school to the rehab patient population in that area. So off the top of my head, those are two very critical things that right away came to mind, as well as how that bringing emergency vehicles across the rehab population was a concern, and how those emergency vehicles can actually track to the emergency room. So there's some very, very sharp turns in that area. So I know we did specifically look at that alternative. Is it exactly what the young lady had mentioned? I'm not sure. So I would definitely encourage her to present that option, and let's look at it. Right? Let's look at
Anybody
it.
knows?
Yeah, that option was brought about previously. This
Okay.
is not the first time.
There was a one-way pair, I think.
No,
option.
as far as the property that goes around behind
Yeah.
St. Barnabas.
I vaguely understand what she's describing, and I think it's very close to an alternative that we looked at, and I would be happy to sit down with her and look it over and look at what we did and see if there's any differences.
Is there, and third and fourth, I know is looking in that area, I don't know if there's other connections that third and fourth are making that really, make that almost too close.
Yeah.
I don't know, so it's that spacing as a piece of the puzzle as well.
When the other routes were proposed, was a tunnel thought of at that time? And that, you know, only because Norfolk Southern wouldn't let you go on their property, that you would have to go under it, that a tunnel is going to be funded. Could you look maybe at funding a tunnel somewhere else?
No, I would say the tunnel was not looked at when those all the other alternatives were developed. The railroad talked to the city in 2011 and identified this property as something that they were interested in selling. And in the last 2 years, they've reversed course on that discussion. So that's really where the tunnel has been born out of, is the idea that they want to preserve that land. So is that worth looking at alternatives? Perhaps. Perhaps.
Can you help me understand more about not wanting to split Tennessee American? And it's all on this particular picture here.
Sure.
It looks like most of it is all on one side, and it looks like maybe there's a tank or something on the other side. How critical is it? Or is maybe something not on the map that I'm seeing? But I mean,
Sure.
I guess.
Why couldn't you just build a bridge over their whole property and their whole highway?
Well, again, to address the question about Tennessee American Waters, that is the only water intake source location for the water for the city. So obviously critical infrastructure that we need to protect and take care of. So that's number one. Number two, Homeland Security has interest in that property and an interest to make sure that there aren't people traipsing around that property or certainly any kind of bridges or really break that infrastructure up. The costs start to really rise. Additionally, we wouldn't be able to, TDOT wouldn't allow a bridge-to-bridge connection into the existing bridge, which has really limited our options as where we could come in. And that is a pretty big factor in what options we have. We kind of look at, we can't really divide Tennessee American Water, this bridge, we can't come into the bridge anywhere in through there. So that was one more of those factors that kind of lead you to, Jeff, you got a little power here. So, lots of factors, lots of factors.
By the way, if there may be other questions, I'm happy to hang around and speak individually or in groups. This has been, I think, great input.
Yeah, how would you say we could find those reports? You said you had a report on gentrification studies. How are you making that available to the community?
Jeff, you want to handle that?
Yeah, once they've been reviewed by TDOT, we'll make them publicly available.
And also the alternatives, the alternative routes you guys have talked about, that may also be looked into?
Yeah, I don't know why the open records request. I just want to go back and make sure I understand the legal answer to that question, but provided that we can, which I would assume we can, we'll make those available as well. So great. Thanks everybody for coming tonight.
Let me say something.
Yes, ma'am.
Sister Tompkins, we have hospital over there. The CHS, that school is there. But Lincoln Park was there for all that was there. But that is not even taken into consideration at all. Lincoln Park is not even taken into consideration at all. I mean, you don't want to go down by System because they have to have a parking lot over there. And the street down, that's where they used to get the Amico highway, around behind CSS. Behind it, by System. And they didn't have to worry about parking lot. But like I'm saying, that's irrelevant. Lincoln Park was always there before any of the rest of it there. So, why do we have to sacrifice?
Because Lincoln Park is historical to us because I attended, and some of us here, I might be the oldest one here, but attended the old Howard School that was on Carter Street. And that's where we had to go to play our games because we had no other place. And this was before the new Howard was built. This is the place, we had a Ferris wheel, we had a merry-go-round. That's where we had to go. That is where we had to take our children. We could not go to Warner Park until the fair was here, and then we could go. But other than that, that's where we had to go. That's where we had to take our children. That's where our recreation was. And anyone who says that it is not historical, they need to go back and look again. Now,
these things, all these things, there was just a meeting over at Carver Center about the mental hospital that's gonna be over there. It seems as if Erlanger is trying to take, just embody the whole thing. Now, a mental institution has no business over there in our neighborhood. It should not be. Now, whoever says that this is not historical, they need to go back. We used to get to like she said, Amnicola, right around CSAS. That's the way we used to go. Okay, as a convenience, they closed that up. Now, and talking about the trucks, yes, the trucks will be going over because that is an access from the freeway to Amnicola. And on Amnicola, there are truck businesses hidden back there. You don't even know it unless you go back there. And it's plenty of trucks on Amnicola. They will be using that. Now, it seems like the whole thing has to do with Erlanger. I worked at Erlanger back in the 60s when it was just the little thing. Now, they promised one day to have a hotel. They tried that. That didn't work. So now they've got all types of specialties in there. UT this, UT that, physicians and everything, training hospital. So I think, now, if this were in another neighborhood, I'm talking about, and if they protested, it would not be done. It wouldn't be done because I have seen it, read it in the paper where they said, no, that would not be done here. And it was not done. And there are a lot of things now. I will share this with you. About 42, 43 years ago, I had a cousin who worked at City Hall. This has been about 40, he's dead and gone now. He told my mother, he said, in a few years, you're not gonna know this city as it is now. He said, because they're making plans for it now.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what's going on. And all we do is we actually just kindly look at it the way we're looking at it. Lincoln Park, we value Lincoln Park.
Oh, yeah.
We do. We do. And we just wish that you would, that the authorities or whoever's in charge, that they would just look at that because what is happening, they're making it convenient for someone else. Erlanger is one of them. They're making it convenient for them. Because Erlanger's not the only hospital here who gets emergency calls. That's right. So,
Then Erlanger has a helicopter.
Erlanger has helicopters. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That should take off some of the groundwork. That's what they used to say. Take off some of the groundwork when they had the helicopter.
That's right.
And then who's standing in the way of progress? I mean, y'all make the decision and everybody else has to just conform or get run over.
The decision is already made when you all bring it to us. It has already been made. It's already, and you look at our neighborhood.
Online, that it's already been made.
It's already been made. Look at Wilcox Tunnel. I don't know what they did with it. All this money they said was spent on it, spray paint, whitewash is what it is. Because it needs to, that's all that neighborhood. That's exactly right.
And bring them up.
Y'all hang around, y'all have a great evening, I appreciate y'all taking the time, anybody wants to talk to me individually, thank you.
We understand, but you don't want to hear it, so.
Hey, I'd like to say one last thing. This area city council is not present because he is all for the road going through. That's right. I think Ken Smith and Yusuf Hakeem, but they may be for it also going through. But I think they can. But Moses wouldn't show